Hello there. Welcome to Stepping Up. On this edition of the program, we'll focus on the role of arts and culture in rejigging the revenue base of the country. Now, Nigeria, no doubt, is one of the countries blessed with abundant human and natural resources, to the extent which, if harnessed, our dear country will be able to meet the ever-increasing needs of the citizens, as well as being a pride not only to the African continent, but also in the Committee of Nations. It has been asserted that one of the ways of improving the country's gross domestic product, GDP, is to open tourism and culture subsector in the globalized world. Now, to achieve this, arts and culture, which is the way of life of the people, must be strategically placed to attract tourists. The issue now is, how has the country's arts and culture subsector been placed to generate revenue? Stepping up to the platform to provide answers to this and many more is the Director General of the National Council for Arts and Culture, Mrs. Dayo Keshi, whom you'll get to meet after this time out. I'm Sarah Sander. Please stay.
Mrs. Ekundayo Quinolia Keshi was born in Lagos State on 11th July 1954 to the family of Mr. and Mrs. Claudius Idowu Jones. She attended St. Agnes Primary School, Lagos, from where she proceeded to Our Lady of Apostle Ibadan, Oyo State, and obtained her first school leaving certificate in 1970 and higher school certificate at St. Teresa College, Ibadan, Oyo State. In her quest for higher academic excellence, she proceeded to the prestigious University of Ibadan, where she bagged BSc degree in linguistics in 1976. Driven by the interest and passion to make a significant contribution to the growth of Nigerian arts and culture, she got to the Federal Civil Service in 1983 as a cultural officer, where she meticulously rose with dint of hard work to the post of Director, Department of Cultural Industries and Heritage, Federal Ministry of Tourism, Culture and National Orientation, a position she held before her retirement. Due to her exemplary, dedicated and distinguished career service records, she was appointed the Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture, NCAC, since 2013 up till date. She has been married for 38 years and is blessed with 3 children and 4 grandchildren.
Thanks for staying with us. We're reaching you from the office of the Director General of the National Council for Arts and Culture, Mrs. Dayo Keshi. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming.
I'd like to start off by asking, where are we now? Where is Nigeria now in terms of being placed on the global map of arts and culture?
When you talk in terms of heritage, arts and culture, I would say Nigeria has an abundance of it. When you say to the world, that would be what we need to work on. First, on packaging what we have for it to sell to the world. So right now we have, as it were, the ingredients. We have to bring it together to work on it much more, in order that it would be not even acceptable, in order that it will be something the world will want to take. If you get what I'm trying to say, we need to do some more packaging.
How are you going about this?
Well, the African Arts and Craft Expo is one of the programs here in NCAC, where we showcase arts and crafts from different African countries and the different states in Nigeria. And by promoting that festival every year, we provide a kind of economic platform that enables arts and crafts from African countries and indeed the whole of Nigeria, enables all the arts and crafts to get the kind of recognition for them to even market, as it were, because anything that has economic gain tends to be much easier and a material to sell. So that is what AFAC is about, providing that economic structure, number one, and number two, making the products sellable.
Okay. Now, aside from the expo, what other strategies are you adopting to promote our arts and culture?
Well, as you well know, NCAC is here to promote the living arts, and that involves every aspect of the arts, you know, the drama, production, exhibitions, and all that. And we have been doing our own bit. But as I said, we could do much more. We could do much more than just one expo a year. I believe AFAC or something like AFAC, Nigeria can easily take 10 in a year. You might change venues, but you can still present rich content in all these various venues and use the same structure, just replicate. But of course, in order to do that, you are talking resources. You are talking more investment into the sector, as it were. You are saying an AFAC is great, but multiply that times 6. That means you need more resources to be able to hold such festivals. So indeed, I think NCAC, through NAFEST, the National Festival of Arts and Crafts, in which people just focus on the parade, you know, in between the parade, we also have all this rich content, which includes arts and craft exhibition. And we pulled, the last NAFEST in Uyo, according to our count, pulled about 15,000 visitors over the period of 10 days we were running NAFEST. That seems small when you think of the population in Nigeria. But for arts and crafts to really grow, we must now take it, invest in it, like we did in other areas, like in agriculture and solid minerals. We have to invest in the creative industries. Just what the private sector tried and they succeeded with Nollywood, even our music and even fashion industry. All these were private efforts, as it were. So we just need, as an establishment, to have the right framework and resources to galvanize Nigeria's arts and crafts, not only to Africa, but indeed the whole world. And it is doable. We just have to be purposeful about it.
Okay. Usually when we hear things like that, first thing that comes to mind, people will say, what is government doing about it? But I'm asking, what are you doing to attract private sector investment? Well,
as I've always said, the private sector does not invest in anything that's not sellable or attractive, because they are in it for money. So I think the government of Nigeria has presented, as it were, within an AFAC, for example, the opportunity for both even non-governmental organizations, the private sector, to come in and invest in an AFAC. How do they do that? They participate. Yeah. They come in, they pay for their stall, which has been, you know, built up for them. We already have the venue, which is advertised by NCAC. So you come in, you put up your stall, and you put up the best of your crafts. And of course, it depends on your marketability as well. You know, you as the stakeholder would have to do that. What we do is to keep advertising within our limited resources. So I'm thinking that as we move on, and as it's been indicated in this year's AFAC, you find that we have more of non-governmental organizations. What we mean by that, not the state representatives or federal. These are private people, you know, coming into the sales of arts and craft. They increased by another 30%. Last year, they increased by about 15%. This year, they've doubled. So as we move along, I envisage that in the very near future, we'll have what it should be, which is non-governmental organizations, private company, the private sector, buying into an AFAC and taking over the responsibility of delivering some aspects. So that way they do it, and they do it for profit. So the government, as it were, will still be involved, you know, to regulate and make sure that, you know, we keep up the structure that we sell. However, it should eventually be taken over by the full participation of the private sector. The reason being that, it will last longer. It will stay longer. It's not subjected to budget availability. So indeed, I do believe we're on the right track. I was excited this year when I realized that we had, the non-governmental organizations were a bit higher, almost double in participation. And I do believe that it's just a matter of time. Otherwise, we'll run into a situation where when you don't have the right allocation, then you don't have an AFAC. That will be disastrous. And as we go along, it's been clear that we should all kind of move, as it were, from just being totally dependent on budget to becoming less dependent. And the only way you can do that is to sell off part of your products.
Okay. Now, do we have figures for the contribution of arts and culture to the GDP?
Well, I guess there should be figures. I do believe, though, that even if there are figures, we haven't even reached 1/10. And again, it's because the creative industry, where we have our heritage, where we have, marketable tools, have not really been taken as a key part of building Nigeria's economy. Because for every industry, you must invest in it. There must be massive investment. And the good thing about the creative industry is that indeed, they don't even really need to invest in too many billions. You just need a few of that, a fraction of it. And then you would discover that you will shake the whole industry. You have done even more than what you thought you would with the results you can get from just investing a little bit into the creative industry. As everything, we, the government, would have to look at that area the same way we did to agriculture and say, let's pick this up. You know the reason why? Because this particular area of the creative industry really is more empowerment at grassroots. The practitioners, those who have the skills that produce our crafts are really at grassroots level, and they form the majority. So you are empowering grassroots, and then you are doing one significant thing that every country that have become highly developed will be doing, which is you empower from bottom-up creation of wealth instead of from top-bottom. So yes, we are hoping that at some point, it will be taken on as a key area of, development. In fact, sometimes I say, I'm looking forward to the day Mr. President will declare that I am the Minister of Culture. And from that moment on, you will be amazed at how fast the creative industries will grow.
We don't seem, as a people, to appreciate what we have, particularly our local arts and crafts.
I beg to differ. We do appreciate it. It's more of saying that, we will need to educate our producers of arts, our craftsmen, better. You see, most visitors who come, they find it hard to go away with our carvings, for instance, or even our bronze work. You know why? Because the average visitor wants to carry something light that they can just throw into their suitcases. Another thing again is that the tourism aspect of it hasn't been fully developed. Because in every airport, there should be an arts and crafts shop authenticated by a government agency like NCAC or any other agency they might so choose. Why do I say authenticated? Because you don't want products that are sold in such places to be, to become substandard. Because if they take such products, it can kill that market. So we have to regulate whatever goes into such stores. I call it art stores. And until we create this kind of, framework or need it's going to be very difficult for us to ever get to where we should be.
Okay. Now, how would you say Nigeria's cultural diversity has helped in unifying us as a people?
Well, I will speak from the point of view of the living arts. If you watch a production of drama, dance, even where the craftsmen are working, nobody is looking at where you are from. They are looking at the end product. You get what I'm saying? Most artists, they have their own language, as they will tell you. They are not looking to say, oh, you are from this part of the country or that part of the country. No, they come in clusters. And it could be anybody from any part of Nigeria. That is as long as you are practicing that trade. So for me, I always said that when we start, I always say that when we start recognizing the fact that the blessing of Nigeria really is our unity in diversity, that we have all these various products, including multi-languages that are totally different from each other, even in our arts industry, totally different. We have all these various diversities, as it were, that you would think should split us up. But they don't. They actually unify us stronger as a people. Each area have their own peculiarities, no doubt. However, you would find that on the average, it's in Nigeria that you have up to over 200 languages. But we all understand each other. And in the art world, they hardly speak the basic language you are talking about. The work, whatever arts they are engaged in, is what speaks the language. And they are very supportive of each other. They come together once they feel threatened. And even when there's a market somewhere, you will find they tell each other and they all migrate, even though they are in competition. So I find it very interesting. I've worked with Nigerian artists for a long time. And I honestly feel that there is indeed a unity in our diversity. That's what makes this country great.
Drawing from what you've said, shouldn't promoting our arts and culture now come to us naturally?
I think we do, without knowing it. If you go to any country in the world, the popular known ones, even the obscure ones, you know, as a diplomat's wife, I've had my own share of travel. There is nowhere we went to that we didn't find Nigerians. And the interesting thing about Nigerians, as far away as China, we went on official duty. And after 4 days, we said to the Nigerian with us, you know what, we need Nigerian food. You know, Nigerians, once they don't eat their food, after 4 or 5 days. So I said, is there a Nigerian restaurant? And they said, plenty. We didn't know you want to come to China and eat Nigeria. I said, well, just for, and then everybody was like, oh, let's go. And they actually had an indigenous Nigerian restaurant right there in the middle of all the Chinese shops. And what was astonishing was that we went in and we met some Chinese inside, eating egusi and pounded yam. You see, so the bottom line is that, you know, we still have a lot to do, there is no doubt, but because we haven't even scratched the surface. But believe you me when I tell you that the strength in this country, they throw it around in every country, everywhere you meet Nigerians. You will meet their food. They have a tailor who will sew their agbada, their long skirt and blouse, because Nigerians are really tied to their own things, their own way of dressing, their language, their food. So we witness this everywhere.
At this point, I would like to stop it here and take a short break. Viewer, don't go away. The program continues in a moment. Thanks for staying with us. You're still watching Stepping Up. We're reaching you from the office of the Director General of the National Council for Arts and Culture, Mrs. Dayo Keshi. Now, moving on, what are the challenges you face in effectively promoting arts and culture in Nigeria and taking it globally? Yes.
Well, first and foremost is to work on our packaging. We tend to make works that are maybe too heavy or too large. So it's not easy for the average tourist to just pick up and go. Even in our airports, it's the same problem. We don't have enough stores to sell some of our crafts that would be easy to carry along with, with a traveler. So having said so, that is one area we need to look at and see if we can help by, directing some of these art producers to make it more tourist friendly for export purposes in particular. Another challenge, of course, is always the investment. The average artist really is the worst person to sell his wares. We discovered over time that when an artist produces a work, it becomes like a baby to him or her. And they are not the best to decide how much that baby is worth. They either overprice or underprice, depending on his temperament at that time. So that is where we should look at developing what I call art vendors. Those who are not necessarily artists, but indeed, they can just sell artworks because it's part of a business, that they do. Of course, the artists on the average usually live from hand to mouth. It takes a long time for you to become well known like the big ones we know. This should not necessarily be so, because with art vendors, you'll galvanize their income because they don't have to leave their place where they are operating from, usually their small local government community, and move into town. You leave them where they are, then the art vendors are the ones that do the movement. Now, what I say as a further way of enriching this chain is for each state government to have like what I call an arts and craft village, where all these artworks are showcased and sold by art vendors or even the artists if they so choose. But if each state has that, that means in 36 points plus the FCT, we have arts and crafts market where all products can go into. And artists are, they move around a lot. So even these art vendors can even move from one state to the other, marketing these works, and then we'll have larger sales. And that enriches the producers who can then stay in their local government. And the great thing in Nigeria is that it has been documented that every local government in Nigeria has a product, a craft product, an art product that they can build on. So that gives us over 774, if I'm not wrong, works that we can build on. That's an abundance. So really, it's the mainstay of the success will be in two phases. One, investment. And since government is the main investor in the country, really, when it comes to things like arts and crafts, a huge investment has to be made in that sector to galvanize it into becoming what it should be. And then secondly, is to make it clear that you don't have to produce artworks to sell. You see, some people don't even produce most of what our huge companies here sell to them. They are like the middlemen between buying from the companies and selling in the open market. It should be the same thing for arts and craft. Thirdly, is the need for us to have three major art malls. I saw it in Salvador, Brazil, and I think Nigeria can easily replicate that or something even bigger, where they have a huge dome. It's made out of glass, but it's weather friendly. It has air conditioning, or you can open the windows, and it also has, the escalator that takes you to the second floor. You would think it's just like any of the huge malls we have here, but what do they sell there? All the artworks from each of their provinces. That is what is marketed there. So you don't need to travel from one state to the other, in their case, from one province to the other. All you have to do is go to that mall, that art mall, and you get everything under one roof. And most of the people, they are not necessarily the artists. They are art vendors. If Nigeria could have only three to start off with, one in Lagos, one in Abuja, one in Kano, and we dedicate it to the arts, weather-friendly, everything, it will draw a number of tourists.
Okay. I'd like to move away from the arts and crafts industry. I've watched you speak with passion, and it's the same passion I see when you do your empowerment program, the Nigeria Women's Association. What drives you?
Talk of Nigerian Women Association of Georgia, including Atlanta. I got there and I found that we'll go out and all the women, they are Nigerian women, but they will come out in the best of, evening gowns and all that. And one day I called about 4 of them to my house and I said, why do you all not dress Nigerian? Because when I walk into a reception, just count it. My husband and I count 1, 2, 3. Before you count 3, the whole hall is quiet. You know why? Because my head tie in Ashoke will be right up there. I would have thrown one here, and then he would wear his full agbada. So I did that mainly for posterity. And I'm so happy that the women were more than happy to buy into it. And we really Nigerianized Atlanta during that time. And they are still continuing. As you see now, we've moved on to even the children, giving them scholarship, through their own effort from Atlanta, that Nigerian Women Organization of Georgia. I know many a times people will say to me, but do you really feel happy about this in Nigeria? And I would say, well, it has nothing to do with my happiness, but I want to ask you again, did this not also happen in your own country at a point in the history? I said, ours too will one day become history, from which others will learn from. I said, but for now, we are, operating well as a nation.
That's a good point to end this interview. Thank you very much for your time, Mrs. Dayo Keshi, Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture.
Thank you very much as you project this sector.
Thank you very much. And thank you too, viewer, for watching the program. Don't forget to send your questions and comments to the different platforms scrolling on your screens. And don't forget, it is SMS only, please. Thanks for watching. Goodbye for now.